When God's silence hurts more than death, imagine this. You're at your lowest point. Illness has knocked on your door. The pain is unbearable. And all you want is to hear the voice of the one who can do anything. You send an urgent message. Lord, the one you love is sick, but time goes by. 1, 2, 3 days. Nothing. Silence. Sound familiar? Today, I want to take you into a story that will change the way you see God's silence. It's the story of Lazarus, a regular man with an extraordinary friend, Jesus. Yes, the same Jesus who walked on water, calmed the storm, and healed the sick. But this time, when Lazarus needed him the most, Jesus didn't rush to his rescue. Why? Why did Jesus, who loved Lazarus, not run to heal him? Why did he allow him to die? Let me tell you something you might not expect. God's silence is not absence. It's preparation. It's the prelude to a miracle so great that it will shake your faith and remind you that he is always in control. But before we get to that moment, I want you to step into the shoes of Martha and Mary. Imagine their desperation. Their brother, Lazarus, was dying, and Jesus, their friend, was nowhere to be found. Have you ever felt like that? Have you cried out to God only to receive silence in return? Sometimes, God's silence is not abandonment. It's the setup for something bigger than we can see. So stay with me, because this story isn't just about Lazarus. It's about you, about me, and about how Jesus handles our darkest moments. Together, we're going to uncover why Jesus waited, why he wept, and why this story is one of the most powerful ever told. But before we go any further, I want you to ask yourself this. What in your life feels dead and needs to be brought back to life? Because let me tell you something, Jesus didn't just raise Lazarus. He wants to resurrect something in you too. Stay with me, because this is just the beginning. The love we don't understand. When Jesus waits. When Martha and Mary sent that urgent message to Jesus, they were certain he would come immediately. After all, he was their friend. He loved them. But Jesus didn't come. Not right away. He waited. Too long, endless days. 2 days where time kept moving, but Lazarus kept getting worse. Can you imagine their anguish? The feeling of abandonment? Martha and Mary must have thought, if he really loved us, he would be here, but Jesus wasn't there, and Lazarus died. Why would Jesus, who could heal anyone with just a word, allow Lazarus to die? The answer is deeper than it seems. Jesus wasn't being cruel. He was teaching us something we need to understand. His love doesn't always manifest the way we expect. Sometimes, he allows us to reach the breaking point to show us that there is no limit to his power. When Jesus finally arrived in Bethany, Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. 4 days. In Jewish culture, it was believed that after 3 days, the soul left the body. So to everyone, Lazarus had no hope. But Jesus doesn't operate under our limitations. Martha ran to meet him, tears in her eyes and reproach in her heart. Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Sound familiar? How many times have we said something similar to God? If you had acted sooner, this wouldn't have happened. But Jesus, with a calm only he could have, replied, Your brother will rise again. Martha thought he was talking about the end of times, the final resurrection. But Jesus wasn't talking about the future. He was talking about the present. He was about to do something no one expected. Jesus' love doesn't always manifest the way we want, but it always shows up on time. Have you ever wondered why God doesn't answer your prayers right away? Why he allows things to get worse before he acts? This story teaches us that he's not playing with us. He is setting the stage for a miracle that will glorify his name and strengthen our faith. But this doesn't end here. What happens next changes everything. Jesus didn't just speak about resurrection. He demonstrated it. And in the process, he showed us something unforgettable, his power over death. So stay with me, because in the next part, we'll get to the heart of this story. We'll see how Jesus, with just one word, raised Lazarus from the dead and left us with a lesson that still resonates today. But before we move on, I want you to ask yourself, what in your life feels dead and needs to be resurrected? Because here's a preview. Jesus didn't just raise Lazarus. He wants to bring something back to life in you too. Stay with me, because this is just the beginning. The perfect moment, when death turns into life. When Jesus arrived in Bethany, grief filled the air. Martha and Mary were devastated. Their brother, Lazarus, had been dead for 4 days. 4 days in which sorrow had turned into despair, and despair into resignation. But Jesus didn't come just to comfort them. He came to transform everything. What happens when we reach our limit, and it seems like God isn't acting? Jesus approached the tomb, a cave sealed with a massive stone. "Take away the stone," he said. Martha, her voice trembling, warned him, "Lord, by now there is a stench. He has been dead for 4 days." Can you imagine that scene? The smell of death, the disbelief on their faces, the overwhelming sense that it was too late. But Jesus didn't come to do what was possible. He came to do the impossible. With a calm that only he could have, he looked up to heaven and prayed, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me." Then, with a voice that echoed deep into that tomb, he shouted, "Lazarus, come out." In that instant, death retreated. The grave clothes wrapped around Lazarus began to move, and he, the man who had been dead for 4 days, walked out, alive. Jesus doesn't just have power over death. He has power over what seems impossible in your life. What in your life feels dead? A dream? A relationship? Your faith? Let me tell you something. There is no grave so dark that Jesus cannot bring light to it. There is no situation so hopeless that he cannot transform it. Because he didn't just raise Lazarus. He wants to resurrect something in you. But there's something else in the story we cannot overlook. Something that reveals the humanity of Jesus. Something that reminds us that he is not a distant God, but a God who feels our pain. Before shouting, "Lazarus, come out," the Bible tells us that Jesus wept. Yes, the Son of God, the creator of the universe, shed tears. Why? Because he is not indifferent to our suffering. He feels what we feel. He walks with us in our darkest moments. What was behind Jesus' tears? His tears were not of helplessness, but of compassion. They were proof that he understands our pain, that he is with us in the midst of our struggles. And that, my friend, is one of the most powerful truths in this story. But this isn't the end, because what happens next changes everything. Jesus didn't just resurrect Lazarus. He left us with a promise that still echoes today. "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die." So stay with me, because in the next part, we're getting to the heart of this story. We're going to discover how Jesus' tears reveal a love beyond our understanding. But before we continue, ask yourself this. What in your life needs to be resurrected? Because here's something to think about. Jesus didn't just raise Lazarus. He wants to bring something back to life in you. Stay with me, because this is just the beginning. The tears of Jesus, a God who feels your pain. Of all the things we could remember from this story, one detail always moves me. Jesus wept. Yes, the Son of God, the creator of the universe, shed tears. Why? Because he is not a distant God. He is a God who feels your pain, who walks with you through your darkest moments. What was behind Jesus' tears? His tears were not of helplessness, but of compassion. They were proof that he understands our pain, that he is with us in the midst of our struggles. And that, my friend, is one of the most powerful truths in this story. Jesus didn't just raise Lazarus from the dead. He showed us that there is no situation so dark that he cannot bring light, no grave so deep that he cannot open, no dream so lost that he cannot restore. Because he is the resurrection and the life. Jesus doesn't just have power over death. He has power over what seems impossible in your life. What in your life feels dead? A dream? A relationship? Your faith? Let me tell you something. Jesus didn't just resurrect Lazarus. He wants to resurrect something in you. He wants to take what seems lost and breathe life into it. He wants to take your pain and turn it into hope. But there's something even more important to understand. Jesus doesn't just have the power to resurrect. He has a desire to do it. He is not an indifferent God. He is a God who cries with you, who feels what you feel, and who is ready to act at the perfect moment. So today, if you're walking through a valley of shadows, remember this. Jesus didn't just raise Lazarus. He wants to resurrect your life. His tears are proof that he loves you, that he understands you, and that he is with you. If this message touched your heart, I want to invite you to do something today. First, share this with someone who needs it. There is someone out there who needs to be reminded that Jesus has not finished their story. Second, leave a comment and tell me what area of your life needs to be resurrected. A dream? A relationship? Your faith? I want to pray for you. And if you don't know Jesus yet, today is the perfect day to draw near to him. He is waiting for you. Because, my friend, Jesus is not just a resurrection in the life. He is your resurrection in your life. And if you believe in him, even if you are dead, you will live.
If this video has touched your heart and has been a blessing to you, we invite you to leave an amen in the comments as a sign of your faith and gratitude. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you won't miss more content that strengthens your spirit. May God always bless you. See you in the next video.